You might be overtraining if you feel sore all the time, not just a day or two after your workouts. Some soreness is normal after training, but unless you've started a new set of exercises, soreness lasting several days tends to die down after a few weeks on a steady training program. As your body begins to adapt, the soreness reduces. So if you're noticing nearly constant soreness, it could be that your body is inflamed and not getting the time and the rest that it needs to calm down between your training sessions. You might be overtraining if your progress is immeasurable. Part of effective training is progressive overload. Rigorous progressive overload means keeping a training log and systematically overloading your variables by adding reps, weight, intensity, or improving form. We all experience occasional plateaus, but generally speaking, you should be able to improve by at least one rep each session, or you didn't actually adapt. That said, we all do have off days, and sometimes your performance can be off due to stress or lack of focus, not because you didn't actually get stronger. But if you don't progress at all for 2 or 3 sessions in a row, this is a sign that you're either doing too much or too little. Depending on whether you have the other symptoms, you'll know which. You might be overtraining if you feel so exhausted that you're skipping or contemplating skipping your workouts. If the fatigue you feel during a workout transcends the workout and makes you extremely tired for the rest of your daily life, you might be overtraining. It's normal to be very tired at bedtime because you need sleep, but if your energy is lacking the rest of the day after a workout, or even on rest days, you might just be burnout. Another telltale sign is that when it comes time to do your next training session, you're not excited for it. If it feels like it's going to be too hard, or that you're just not ready, or that you don't even want to do it for some reason, maybe you shouldn't. Maybe what you really need is just more rest or a proper deload. You might be overtraining if you're getting sick. If you notice that you're prone to little coughs that you can't quite shake, or your nose is runny despite the season, this could be a good sign that you've overreached and your immune system is suffering for it. Training response causes inflammation and stress, and chronically can tire us out if we don't properly recover. So if you think you're overtraining, what can you actually do about it? Well, another way to think about overtraining is under-recovering. In a theoretical sense, there's no fundamental limit to how much training you can actually do, or how high of intensity. No matter who you are, there's someone out there lifting heavier weights more often. But these people at the highest level will have built up a progressively larger work capacity over years or even decades, and they'll also be recovering extremely effectively. So work capacity, and thus training capacity, is trainable. As your cardio and metabolism improve, you can progressively handle more training volume. So when we talk about overtraining, it's just overtraining for your body right now. You can't look at someone else's program and say, oh, well, they're doing twice as much volume as me, and I'm making gains, so they must be overtraining. All different types of training programs work for different people at different times. So we sort of have 2 sets of levers we can pull, recovery levers and training volume levers. In the long run, most people should experiment with both to keep optimizing their results, but I do feel that recovery levels are often longer-term projects than training ones. Of course, you have sleep, nutrition, and life stress. All of these are super potent, but likely will take effort over years to improve, and are way more ingrained in your general lifestyle than the training variables are. This doesn't mean they're less important, it just means that it takes more commitment and more time to effectively change them. I also think that these are much more individualized than training. People's responses and differences in sleep, nutrition, and lifestyle are much more complicated, and a seemingly extremely broad spectrum of different strategies seem to work. In the future, I'll probably talk about these topics more, but for now I'll focus on the training volume lever. So training volume, this is how much work you're doing in a week, often represented as how many hard sets you do in your workout routine. If you're overtraining, you simply want to find a way to reduce this. So I'll look at 2 examples. First trainee is just acutely overtrained. They suddenly, in the last 2 weeks, started to feel some of the symptoms I just described. Maybe because of a change of the seasons, they just haven't been sleeping well. But for their normal lifestyle, the training volume is enough to make gains, but not too much to generate excess fatigue. So the solution is to take a deload for a week or 2. This might mean skipping 1 to 2 sessions a week or 50% of total sets for the next week or 2, allowing the body to refresh itself and then just getting right back on the grind. In the long term, it could be wise to periodically introduce deloads, say every 6 to 12 weeks, but it's not necessary for everyone. Personally, I only take passive deloads when I go on holidays and I go traveling. This gives me a natural break, which refreshes me, and I don't have any trouble rebuilding the habit when I get back home. The second trainee is chronically overtrained. This means that the training program needs to be significantly modified. The first thing I would do is try dropping 15 to 30% of the weekly sessions. So if you're doing 6 days a week, dropping to 5 or 4. If you're doing 4 days a week, that would be down to 3. If you're only doing 1 or 2 sessions a week, probably dropping a whole session doesn't make a lot of sense. Also, probably you're not overtrained if you're only training at that frequency. The second step is dropping the number of sets per exercise. I'm a big fan these days of just warming up and then working up to 1 or 2 really hard sets per exercise, taking as close as you're willing to go to failure. 5 months ago, I found myself in this exact position. I was sick for a week from illness, and I was just feeling majorly burned out about my training. So I dropped down from training 3 times a week, roughly 5 sets per exercise, to training just twice every 8 days, and doing just 1 set of each exercise taken to failure. The increased set intensity took about 2 weeks to adapt to. I can remember after my first high intensity session, I needed to take a nap afterwards, and I finished at like 9 in the morning. But I've been recovering way better than on my previous high volume plan. But that's not to say that it'll necessarily be the best one for you. The art of training is in self-experimentation and learning to auto-regulate to find out what your body handles well. Thanks and have a lovely day.